Well, good afternoon, everyone, or evening, I should say. We're going to go ahead and get our program started. And first and foremost, I just want to thank all of you for coming out this evening. I've been walking around and kind of joking with some of you, but it's so good to have an opportunity to visit with you, catch up with you, see what's going on, and so forth. But tonight, I'm very, very excited. I always think about the opportunities that we have at the University of Maryland, the opportunities that you have as student athletes, and how people always talk about what we do on the fields of play, the court, the pitch, or what have you. But it's so much more than that. And tonight is just a shining example of what being a student athlete at the University of Maryland is all about, more specifically, a female student athlete. We are so fortunate to have espnW and Campus Conversations here with us this evening, to be selected to participate in something that is so significant in our country. And when you think about Campus Conversations, what I want you to think about this evening is to educate, engage, and inspire, to help you think about life beyond college athletics. What's the next chapter for you? We've always had this mantra here when we talk about being fearless leaders and being fearless in everything that we do. We've had Fearless Women campaigns here. You guys are fearless every single day that you represent this great university and institution. And when I think about the journey that women have had to take to get to where we are, and mind you, that journey's not over yet. We still have a long ways to go, but everyone played a role in that journey. It's funny, there's a saying by Lao Tzu who says, when you walk 1,000 miles, or every 1,000 miles begins with one step. All of you have been a part of those steps and will continue to carry us forward. When I think of words to define and describe women in sports, I think of courageous, relentless, mental fortitude, tenacity, resiliency, just to name a few. I've been fortunate in my career and here at the University of Maryland to be surrounded by some great female leaders like our Senior Deputy AD, Colleen Sorum, Dr. Sue Sherburne, who is our SWA and Executive Associate AD, just to name a couple. But again, I hope you enjoy tonight's event, and I'm really grateful to all of you for what you represent and what you do for us. I also want to give a shout out to our panelists tonight. To see former student athletes come back, and as we talked earlier, it's about paying it forward, to share what they've accomplished. When I look at Sophia from women's lax, and Stephanie from gymnastics, and Marissa Coleman, who played basketball here. I look at a physician assistant, someone who works for Deloitte & Touche in merger and acquisitions, and then the entrepreneur extraordinaire who owns almost everything that you can imagine and played in the WNBA. To come back and to share what you've learned and to give some words of wisdom to the current student athletes, we are deeply indebted to you and grateful for you. So without further ado, I want to introduce you to Jane Bullock, who heads up espnU and espnW, not you, espnW and Campus Conversations. Let's give a warm welcome for Jane Bullock.
Oh, wow. Thank you guys so much for coming tonight. It's great. I'm going to slightly shorter than Damon. Great to see all of you. I know how busy you all are and how much you have going on. And so we want to make this into a really great, really tight 2 hours for you that I hope you walk away from feeling confident and energized and enthusiastic about life after college and all that you have coming your way. Before we get started, I just want to share a little bit about espnW. Our goal at espnW is to give fans compelling storytelling and fresh perspectives on the freshest issues of the moment. We do that through deeply reported long-form storytelling, and we also have day-to-day action that everybody that you can find across many different platforms. And you all are really represent a target audience for us, and we're so happy that we get to see you in person, which is a very rare opportunity. We hope that you'll join the That's a W movement yourselves by using hashtag That's a W across social to celebrate your accomplishments and the accomplishments of women around you, so your teammates and everybody else. I know this room is filled with incredibly accomplished women, so please take the opportunity to show it off. espnW also has a portfolio of events that includes campus conversations. Since 2016, we have done, I believe this is our 52nd event. So we've met with more than 10,000 female student athletes, so clearly we love seeing all of you, and it's a great experience for us. So what can you expect tonight? We are here to talk about life after college. All of you have different goals. Some of you may know exactly what you want to do. Some of you may have absolutely no idea. Probably a lot of you are in between. A lot of you have some questions, maybe some fear, and we will get to all of that tonight. And to help us through all of that, we've got an extraordinary moderator. Sheila Matthews is a powerhouse media personality in Washington, D.C. On screen, she hosts Logged In, her weekly digital ESPN Anscape show that tackles the hottest topics on the internet, from sports to social issues. You can also find her writing on Anscape.com, where she profiles up-and-coming music artists and athletes and explores critical topics across sports and society. Sheila is no stranger to moderating panels of extraordinary people, which she'll do tonight. She's done so for ESPN, the NBA, Sundance, and many others. So we're very happy and lucky to have her tonight. So Sheila, why don't you come on up and we can go ahead and get started.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Hey, how we feeling? I know it's a Monday, but some energy. How's everyone doing tonight? Woo, that's good. I'm so excited to be here with all of you. Again, my name is Sheila Matthews. I'm with ESPN's Anscape, and I'm so excited to be here with espnW tonight. We have a great panel conversation, a Q&A for you all, and some breakout sessions. So let's get started. Please help me welcome to the stage Sarita Cobbs, Senior Director of Fan Experience at ESPN. Help me welcome Sophia Antonopoulos, a 2023 grad who played lacrosse. Keep the applause going for Marissa Coleman, a 2009 graduate who played basketball. And last and certainly not least, Stephanie Jameo, a 2015 graduate and a gymnast. All right, well, how's everyone doing tonight?
Great, happy to be here.
Happy to be here as well. So I think we should just start off by letting everyone know a little bit about you, who you are. We can go down the line, starting with you.
Hi, I'm Sarita Cobbs. I'm the ESPN panelist. I'm not tremendously athletic, as I was telling this group. I played club soccer when I went to Howard, right down the street, a bit before most of you were born. I've been at ESPN for 21 years in a variety of roles. I produced SportsCenter, I produced X Games. I now lead our fan experiential group, where I do live events. We do watch parties and concerts and fan fests for a host of events. So I'm really excited to be here.
Hi guys, I'm Sophia Antonopoulos. I played lacrosse here. I graduated in 2023. Really excited to see all my familiar faces here. I'm currently a clinical year physician assistant student. Just started working in pediatrics right now. Really excited for this opportunity and really excited to get to talk with all of you.
Hi everyone, Marissa Coleman. I played women's basketball here. I graduated in 2009. Part of our national championship team. I played 10 years in the WNBA. Currently, I do some entrepreneurship stuff, but I work with Underdog Fantasy, and occasionally I dust off the sneakers and give shy and brew buckets in practice.
Hi, everyone. First of all, it's an honor to be here, so thank you all so much for having me. My name is Stephanie Jameo. I was on the gymnastics team from 2011 to 2015. Primarily competed in the all-around and earned first-team All-American on the balance beam. I am a certified public accountant, and I work at Deloitte in the Mergers and Acquisitions group. I primarily serve clients that are in the infrastructure space and energy and renewable sectors. And if you're not familiar with Deloitte, it's a Big Four accounting firm. I earned my bachelor's degree from Maryland 2015 and also my master's degree from the University of Virginia in 2016. I'm really happy to be here and excited for the event.
Yes, and we are excited to jump in. So, how many of you remember how it felt to choose your major? Yeah? Yeah, I do too. It was a lot of choices and a lot of things that I felt like aligned with who I was and what I'd like to do and what I want to do for a career. So, how did you all feel? Do you remember choosing your major? And did you feel any pressure to avoid a certain major or pick a certain major?
Yeah, I can definitely start us off with this one. Crazy enough, I didn't even know what a PA was when I first got to Maryland. And I think that's what's really special about this place specifically. We have so many opportunities, groups to be involved in. I joined the pre-health Terps group through the Maryland Made Terps, and that's how I found out what a PA was. And I know being an athlete can also be daunting to do some of those heavy majors, those medical things, a lot of the heavy business ones, stuff like that. So it definitely was scary settling down and picking one focus, but like I said, I didn't know what a PA was. I was pre-med. I ended up switching my major also freshman year, so there's plenty of room for growth and a lot of room for many opportunities, even if you are an athlete.
When I was picking my major, it was between communication and business. I always had a knack for business, knew that's what I wanted to get in post-playing career. But at one point in time, I thought I wanted to get into journalism, so I did communications. Don't really do that now. But I think putting such an emphasis on the major, I know so many people that don't do anything in their major, and that's okay. I'm 37, I still don't have it figured out, so I think it's okay to pick your major and then pivot down the road.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. I didn't exactly know that I wanted to be an accountant right away, but I knew I wanted to do something business related. And so I applied for the business school and I started taking courses. And it wasn't until a career fair actually at the business school that I saw an opportunity to apply for a leadership conference at Deloitte, which is a Big Four accounting firm, as I've mentioned. And the leadership conference was really more like team building and kind of building your personal brand related. But I fell in love with the company. I met so many great people, so I kind of just decided to go that path because I really liked, the people that I could potentially be working with.
Absolutely, and I love that you took those things into account. So for those who are still struggling with figuring out what major to choose, what's some advice that you can offer?
I would say, this is going to sound like, pick the things that you like to do. Pick the things that are in your skill set. Actually, I started in radio, it was called the School of Radio, Television, and Film, School of Communications at Howard, because I love television. I loved movies. I figured out once I got there what I wanted to do, and I figured out that producing was in my skill set of, the way my brain worked. But the things that there are lots of really interesting roles I found by spending time in that with people who were making movies and getting to make some movies and make some television shows, that, wow, yeah, I'm in the right place. This is what I really want to do. So I'm a big believer of follow your passion. If your passion's law, shoot your shot. Go for it.
And what do you all remember about your frame of mind when graduating from college? Were you nervous, excited, ready to be done with school?
My situation was unique in that I knew I was going to be able to play at the next level. And then I finished early in December because the WNBA draft is in April, so made sure I graduated early. It was kind of difficult in that we had just lost in the Elite Eight, so I was devastated that my college career was over, but then there was the excitement that the WNBA draft was 2 weeks later. So there wasn't too much time to think about anything. So yeah, it was difficult. There was the excitement, but there was also the disappointment that my college career was coming to an end.
I went to grad school, so I was really excited about graduation. Like for the seniors, like this last stretch, soak it in, enjoy it. This is that last stretch where you have that, before you start working and do the other things. Just enjoy it. I went to grad school. Getting out of grad school a few years later, Then it was like, oh gosh, this bit of the panic to like, I got to find a job, and can I find one in what I wanted to work in? But it all kind of comes together. Like if you're a little bit patient, we'll talk about networking and stuff like that later, but don't panic. It'll all sort itself out.
So let's talk about the impact about being a graduating student athlete. Did any of you feel like because you graduated, you had to leave your sport behind?
I think it definitely can feel, there's no doubt about it, it can feel like you are leaving your sport behind, especially if you can't play professionally or there's not an option to play professionally, but there are so many ways that you can still stay connected with your sport and connected with athletics in general. Some of the things that I do, I really love watching college gymnastics during season. I'm a big fan of the gym Terps. I also make a point to come back to Maryland at least once a year for a meet or a football game, stay connected with my coaches and my teammates. There's also ways to stay connected through Maryland athletics, like through the M Club, which I'm sure you guys are familiar with. I actually interned with the M Club when I was an undergraduate student in the summer of my junior year, and when I graduated college, I became a lifetime member of the M Club. So there are different ways to stay connected, and there's also, you might find you want to pick up a new hobby or an activity to help fuel your competitive spirit. Personally, I do like to stay challenged and competitive, and so a few years ago I took up running, which is something that I never really thought I would do as a gymnast, running long distance, and I've run a few half marathons, and so just a few things that you can do to help stay connected and stay connected with your sport and athletics.
So post-graduation, what were some of the biggest adjustments that you had to make?
I think definitely just losing that routine that you have as a student athlete. When we're here, we're so regimented, and you're doing it with a group of people. And while everyone will have different schedules coming out of it, you're kind of on your own, which is a big adjustment. So I think that was the hardest part for me, not having a set plan, pretty much telling me what to do every day. So you learn kind of a new sense of independence, I think, when you graduate and move on to the real world. And even like being in grad school, I did have a sense of organization and regiment, but it's what you do outside of it. I had to figure out what worked for me in terms of my studying and what to do with all that free time that used to be a 4-hour practice block. So I think just the scheduling and getting adjusted to figuring it out on your own was a big thing for me.
Yeah, I can attest to that. I think as athletes, we're in this bubble for so long, and when you leave that bubble, it's like, oh wow, this is the real world. It's much different. You're not around athletes all the time, so there's not people that think like you and understand certain things. What you said about the schedule, when I retired, that was something I really struggled with is, okay, I still have 8 hours left in my day, like what do I do? Or something as simple as working out. I was so used to working out so intensely that when I retired, if I wasn't like killed over after a workout, I was like, why am I doing this? So it's like really just finding a balance for however many years, it being so structured. But I think the main thing is you're not in that bubble anymore. Even something as simple as making your own doctor's appointments is wild. Because when you're on the team, you just go to the trainer and they do it. And then it's like, okay, now I'm a real adult, I have to do that myself. So we're spoiled in the sense that a lot is taken care for us. So when you're outside that bubble and you have to do it on your own, you realize just how fortunate we were as student athletes.
I would also say one of my biggest adjustments was realizing that you don't need to be perfect on day one of your job or even day 100 or days after that. What I've learned through the professional world is that your boss, your manager, they're not going to expect you to know everything. There is a big learning curve and an adjustment period for you to learn how to do your job. You're not going to feel like you know what you're doing right away, but it takes time. And as long as you are eager to learn, you're proactive, and you're hardworking, you'll be perfectly fine.
So it can be really stressful to transition from being a student athlete and a student to post-grad life. What are some ways that you all managed stress and burnout as you made that preparation for your next transition?
I'm still actively figuring that out, to be honest. I think it's, you mentioned earlier, like finding hobbies or things to take your mind off. Actually, Libby and I were talking before. I do like I call them my old lady walks now. I walk 5 miles a day, and like that is just, it really centers me. I put my podcast on. So I think it's just finding things to get your mind off whatever it is in that moment. So yeah, but I'm still actively figuring that out.
I think you're going to hear a lot when you get into the workforce about work-life balance. And the best way it was ever described to me, it's never like this. It's never fully balanced. Sometimes the work will take a lot more from you, and sometimes you have to make sure you allow the space for your personal life, your family, your friends to take more of you. So just remembering that it's going to swing back and forth and being prepared for that. But people remember, like, your family still has to be the center of who you are. Your career, it's going to be, you're all going to have fantastic careers, you're going to go out and do great things, but your family's really still very important. Your friends, the other young women you know, like you're in the room with now, they're going to be your friends forever. And being there for each other is what's really going to be most important to you. And that's what you're going to remember when you get to be my age. Like, those are the things that, those connective tissues. Jobs come and go and change, and you work with different people, but all of you getting to be there for each other as you go through all those really interesting next 50 stages of your life will be really exciting and fun to go through.
I also think that part of managing stress is managing your workload. For a career like mine, sometimes I have, multiple projects at once that I'm dealing with. And so it's really important to be able to communicate to your manager, to your boss, if you feel overwhelmed and you have too much on your plate, and it may impact the quality of your work or your well-being. It's super important to be able to communicate. And make sure that your workload is reasonable, and I think that shows it might feel like you can't handle your work, but that's not the case. It actually shows that you're responsible, and that you want to do a quality job, and that you care about your well-being, and so I think really important to communicate and manage your workload.
What lessons have you learned by being a student athlete or through your sport that helped you with your transition into postgraduate life?
Time management, 100%. As you all know, we're so busy all the time, and it doesn't feel like it now, but when you're on the outside, you realize how much of a blessing that is, especially, like Marissa mentioned, being around people who weren't all student athletes. You see how much it really impacts you as an individual. Like, for me now, I just finished up my classroom portion. So when I was going to the classroom from, let's say, 8 to 5, that was nothing for me because we do that on top of having practice. But for everyone else, it was the longest day they've ever had. So it's a lot of work now, but it definitely pays off in the end. And it's definitely helped me in being able to manage my time and be as productive as possible.
I think handling adversity and working as a team, handling adversity in that you're not going to win every game, right? So understanding how to handle losses. I've seen a lot of times, for example, I was working with a startup company and we were raising money. And the times that we were getting the no's from potential investors, seeing the people that weren't athletes and their reactions were, versus to me, it's like, all right, well, that's just adversity we're facing. It's just an L. We go on to the next one. And then with teamwork and leadership, it's amazing kind of to what you're saying when you see the people that aren't athletes, how there's so many folks in this world that just don't know how to work in a team, and don't know how to be led or be leaders. So it's just, I think sometimes as athletes, especially as female athletes, we underestimate how much of what we learn as athletes mimic life in every aspect.
So let's talk about careers and journeys and pivots, because your career will take you through a lot of them. I think we can all speak to that. So I want to know more about where you started, where you are, and where you're still growing into professionally.
I started, as I said, working in television, producing television, and now I'm doing what I consider sort of the live theater version of what we do. And the world changes so fast now. People used to be able to ask me like, oh, what's your 5-year plan? Like, the world moves too fast for like 5-year plans now. Like, we work completely differently than we did when it was just linear television. You turn the dial and watch things that way. Then there was then we were DVRing things, and sports was thankfully DVR-proof, but now it's streaming. So following along with what changes, whatever your career is, what the changes are in your career, how the industry's changed has been really important for me. And I was able to pivot to do different things but still get to work at a really cool place like ESPN. So I worked television projects, I worked on apps, I worked on digital projects. I helped with, we're getting espnW going, and now I get to work in this really cool fan experiential project in a job that was created just for me. And so I feel very fortunate to get to do that, and those opportunities exist. You just have to be following looking at the trends and staying ahead of it, and talking to your leadership and following along with what's new, what's next. That's the question I ask. When I'm on the elevator with, a senior VP or an EVP, hey, what are we doing next? What's coming? And being prepared that way. So there's a lot of really, I'm in the last, I think, third of my career now. I've had a really exciting, interesting time along the way.
What you're saying about the preparation of like what's next. Like for me during my playing career, I wanted to make sure that I had everything in place for when I retired, that Act 2 would be pretty seamless. So actually one of my college teammates, her dad owned a ton of Domino's pizzas when we were in school, and I told him I wanted him to mentor me in the franchising space. I like the idea of franchising in that it's similar to sports. You're given a scouting report, it's up to you to execute it. I see franchising the same way. They give you a blueprint, now it's up to you to go execute and be successful. So I knew franchising and entrepreneurship in that sense was always gonna be something that I wanted to do. And then flash forward to 2018, a business mentor of mine approached me about chairing the campaign here to legalize sports betting. Now at the time I was still an active player, and I was like, I remember sitting at AAU tournaments watching Don't Bet on It videos. I cannot be tied to sports betting. But I did my due diligence and I talked to a lot of people and saw it as a huge opportunity to stretch myself and grow. So I did chair that campaign, and that has parlayed into a lot of opportunities in the industry. So just say all that to say is like, test things out. Don't tell yourself no. I had a very specific direction that I wanted certain things to go. And the position I'm in now I love. So if I wouldn't have been open-minded to trying something new, then I wouldn't be here. And you can also do other things. So I still have this position, but I also have the businesses that I'm working on. So I think it's just not telling yourself no and not shutting yourself out of opportunities.
Absolutely, and I love that you said don't tell yourself no. So for everyone else, I want to know what are some lessons that you learned yourself during those moments of pivoting and transition?
I jump into the deep end. I've let myself get pushed in the deep end a few times, and it's always been great. I started at ESPN, and I had only been there like 3 months, and I was only doing like 6-minute bits of television. And an email came around, and one of the VPs said, hey, we need somebody to go work on this other show that's in New York, and it's a 2-hour show. And I sent a note back and like, hey, I really like it here, but I'd love the shot. And I interviewed, and I didn't hear back for like a few weeks, and I got the job. And so next thing you know, I'm going from 6 minutes of television to like a 2-hour show, which was the flagship show on the ESPN2 at the time. And it was really scary, but I just dove in, and it was really successful for me, and it taught me that, wait, I do know how to do this. I'm gonna be okay. I can figure this out, and then it made other risks less scary along the way. So I say it's like take that kind of crazy assignment when you gets offered. When that email goes around at your new office, hey, we need someone to go to this office and do something, or try this new thing, or move to Paris and work on something, say yeah, raise your hand.
Yeah, I want to just piggyback off of that with saying yes to everything. My pivotal moments and kind of those down moments are definitely when I tend to say yes to everything and have all that stress. But like you said, looking back, there are very, very few things that I look back on and regret. So get involved, do as much as you can, even if it feels like you have so much on your plate, so much to do, you will very rarely regret being as involved as you can be.
No, I agree with that. I think pivoting for me has really helped me combat my imposter syndrome because I've been in these different industries and in different rooms, and I've realized that everybody's really just trying to figure it out. And as women, as female athletes, the world's telling us nobody cares about what we're doing or that our path is a certain way, but I've really learned in these different rooms that there's a lot of people that really are just faking it till they make it. And at the baseline, we have the intangibles that a lot of people are looking for. Like we were all talking about, like leadership, time management, being able to work as a team. Like a lot of people are looking for those things. So pivoting has helped with my imposter syndrome a lot, as in there's just a lot of people out there that are faking it till they make it. So yeah.
I completely agree with everything all of the panelists have said. I started out right out of college in Deloitte's auditing practice for 5 years, and then I kind of decided I wasn't, challenging myself as much as I wanted to, and I wanted to take my career in a slightly different direction. So that's when I switched to the mergers and acquisitions practice. I liked that it was a little bit more faster paced, and I was learning more on shorter term projects, learning more about different businesses. And so what I've learned, my lesson is that you don't have to keep doing something because you're good at it or because that's what you know. It can be intimidating, like we've all been saying, to start something new and work with new people, but you want to be able to enjoy what you're doing. So it's definitely worth it to be open-minded and take the opportunity.
So for those of you that are in a position to hire recent graduates, what do you look for when hiring? And if you're not in a position to hire recent graduates, what are some qualities that you think that they should make sure are amplified on their resume?
I'd say make sure you tell people you were a student athlete and that you play. ESPN obviously, we love having athletes work. All the things we just talked about, the time management, all those skills that you bring, being really organized, being really committed, understanding your roles. Those are the things. Let people know, hey, I did this. I did all of these things while I was an athlete. While I was a student. Talk it up. I think in some of the breakout sessions we're going to talk about your little bit of hype sessions for yourself and things like that. Let us know that you're doing that's where you come from in the sports that you were involved in, your interests in working with other people, your ability. I love the comment about being able to take the L and move on, and understanding we're coming back at it tomorrow is really important on teams, not to have people who aren't just going to get down every time thing doesn't go perfectly. Whether it's a television show or in the office or the acquisition didn't work out. It's really important. So talk about your entire career here at Maryland is going to be really important.
Yeah, I would say about probably 80% of my resume was related to Maryland athletics. We are so lucky at this school, and I know you guys hear it all the time, but through Maryland Made, these are opportunities that other schools don't have. And there are so many places to get involved, to network, to help with resume building, to get mentors. For anyone who's interested in the medical field, I got a ton of my shadowing through the mentorship program here. So get involved and really use being a student athlete to your advantage. It helped me get to where I am today, and I'm forever grateful for it.
Yeah, I agree. Shout it from the rooftops, especially now being female athletes and women's sports are on the rise. And I think it's hard when you're in it to realize how cool it is what we're all doing. We all are played collegiate athletics. A very small part of the population does that, and people want to talk about it. Sometimes, especially as female athletes, we underestimate how cool it is. So talk about it. People want to know about your experience. Actually, the job I have now was one of the guys I interviewed with. He's like, as soon as I saw your resume, he's like, you used to beat up on me in the ERC. So it's just like you never know like the connection. So he went to Maryland, he played basketball. So I just lean into it because people do appreciate what we did and would want to be in our shoes.
So I think we all can agree that interviewing, especially for your first big job, can be just a little bit nerve-wracking. And the more you interview, the more that you learn. So I'm curious to know, what are some tips that you all have learned, or maybe you've learned from a mistake yourself, of interviewing effectively?
I would say making sure that you dedicate sufficient time to prepare for the interview. And what you could do as part of that preparation is jot down some key talking points that you want to highlight for yourself. And like we were just talking about too, I think it's really important to talk about your experience as a student athlete. The interviewers love that. They truly do. They can immediately recognize your work ethic. And another thing is that a lot of times interviewers have standard behavioral type of questions. How did you overcome a challenge? How did you work effectively with a team? And you guys all have amazing experiences as Division I student athletes in all of those areas. So I think kind of just, making sure you have time to prepare and highlighting all of your experience as a student athlete.
Yeah, and I think that also one of the biggest things that I learned while interviewing was that the interviewers want to get to know you as a person. Like, they have your resume, they have your application, they know what you have to offer, but that interview time is to really shine and show who you are, show your personality, show all the fun stuff you have. I know interviews can be daunting and nerve-wracking, but I really think it's the time to show personality and, yes, tie in your experiences that are on your resume, but they want to know what makes you stand out as a person, not just what you've accomplished on paper.
Okay, I've got one too. It's going to be a little unconventional. Trust your gut. You don't want every job. You're going to get offered stuff that you're sitting in an interview and you're like, they were late, they're not attentive, whatever the vibe's off. If you get the walk around tour and people don't look happy and excited about being, at least kind of excited about being there, you don't want to work everywhere. If something feels off, it probably is. So I've been on a couple of interviews and I've been offered jobs before and I said, no, this isn't going to work for me. And a couple of them, I dodged some really big. One went out of business, stopped. I found out later, 2 months after I had the interview and they'd made me an offer, they stopped paying everybody there. There was something off about the office. I couldn't figure out what it was. There's just something, and I realized no one listened. The CEO talked over everyone. He didn't listen. He was right about everything in the meeting. He was nice, but he was right about everything. He asked me a question, and I answered, and I knew I had the right answer because it was a subject area I know really well. And he was like, no, it was something else. And I watched the faces of the other people in the room, and he was just going to be right. And that's not the way to run a company. That's not the way to lead. So trust your judgment. Ask your friends. Find out what places are like. Ask them about their culture and what their expectations are of you. And if it doesn't feel right, then keep looking. It's not every job's not a great job, and so don't be afraid to keep it rolling and go look for the next thing.
I love that you said that because I think my first big girl job interview experience, they were like, great, let's hire you today. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so great. It's a same day offer. But then I consulted with the mentor who told me like, something's not right. So we're just going to lean into that feeling. And you touched on mentorship earlier. Mm-hmm. So I'm curious to know the impact of mentors in your life and how networking has impacted your career.
Mentorship is been really, really important. I didn't understand it at all when I got to college. Honestly, I'm a first-gen college student. Quick question, how many first-gen college students do we have any in the room? You're the first ones in your family to go. Hi, back there. I am proud of that. My parents worked really hard to get me to college, but I didn't have that network of like, oh, I know exactly what's supposed to happen and who to network with and how to find mentors and things like that. I had to figure it out a little bit later. But I found that I needed mentors, different kinds of mentors at different parts of my career. I needed some people who worked in completely different industries. So I could keep myself sort of grounded, and I didn't want to always talk about television. I've found I've got great mentors now at different levels of the company, people who teach me things along the way, but that's finding your people as you move along and just letting that circle get bigger and bigger is really important. So your coaches, of course, will be mentors. Other coaches in the department, other people in the athletic department are your first round for those conversations. And then when you get to new places, you'll find the people who you feel like you can trust, and you can close the door and vent. You can close the door and have them talk you off the ledge occasionally and get you back in the game. But finding the right you'll find your people along the way, and then you just keep them, and you'll look up one day like I did, and I'm like, oh great, I get to mentor and I get to do this along for people. Anybody after this who like wants to LinkedIn me and wants to talk more about something, do it. We're part of your network now, so this is your first layer of a new network of people. You should be reaching out to different people if you make a connection with someone here, or all of us at some point, and start those conversations with people. You're also gonna have two different kinds of people. I didn't know this either. You're gonna have mentors. Those are people you're gonna have regular conversations with. You're gonna have sponsors. And sponsors are the people when you're not in the room who are talking about you and how great you are. And that's another kind of person you want. People at the table who are like, you know who I just met? Or you know who I had a great conversation with? I think they're great for this stretch assignment. Or you know what, I think they're great for this next promotion that we've got coming up. So finding the sponsors, the people who are gonna talk about you in the room, not just women. You need men that are sponsors, you need people with different races that are sponsors. You need a really diverse group of people who are sponsors and mentors. So remember, you need a very diverse, wide circle, and you're gonna add to those people as you go along. But sponsors are really important. People to have in your corner who are talking about you when you're not in the room. And I've gotten some great opportunities because sponsors behind the scenes were putting my name in the hat for stuff, and that's been really great.
I agree with everything she said. But in order to find those sponsors and mentors, you have to be authentic.
Right.
People aren't going to speak like she's saying in these rooms and champion for you if it's not authentic. So it's really important right now to be building this network. The people that come to your games that are fans, ask questions about them, ask how they're doing. There's fans of the Maryland women's basketball team that literally one of them I go on a bike ride with almost every Saturday. So they become your friends, and it's because I did it in an authentic way. So check on these people. Don't only reach out when you need something. It's building it in an organic way, and then they'll do those things for you.
You're right.
So Stephanie, my question is for you. You work in a male-dominated industry. What are some challenges that you've encountered?
Yeah, so well, first of all, the mergers and acquisitions group in itself and business and finance in general is male-dominated, but on top of that, the sectors that I primarily focus on, the deals that I work on are typically more male-dominated, infrastructure and energy renewable related. So on a daily basis, I am primarily the only woman on my team. And so when I first joined the M&A practice, I found it a bit difficult because I didn't really know that many female partners or at the top of the leadership chain. And, that made it hard for me to envision myself being a partner or a managing director one day. And in my role right now, in a few years, I could be a partner or a managing director. And so one of the things that I've done is I actually joined a Women in M&A group that Deloitte offers. And since then, I have met so many incredibly talented and amazing women, and two of which I would consider as mentors to me, who have just gone through the partner process. And I think one day down the road that they could be there to support me and guide me. And so I think it's really important to network. And I always found it important that I can connect with other women because of my day-to-day job is all with men. So I really enjoy the friendships that I've made through the Women in M&A group.
Yeah, Marissa, you kind of touched on earlier about still figuring things out, and especially the self-care aspect. So you've made a lot of transitions, or like an act 2, like you said, in your life and your career. How did you handle the emotional pivots that you had to encounter and just different things and challenges with these next acts in your life?
I think it was really leaning on my people. And some of them in this room, it's hard, a lot of the transitions and the pivots. When I retired a little earlier than I wanted to because I lost my mom when I was playing in France. So it was like, okay, didn't expect this to happen. It was just kind of leaning on my people to help that transition. And that's one of the things that I'm most thankful for my basketball career is the people that it's put into my life, because when it's all said and done, that's all that really matters. But yeah, it's just leaning on your people and your experience. That's what's worked for me.
And Sophia, I know as a former athlete, you chose to go the grad school route. What led you to that decision, and what's some advice that you have for people who are considering applying to grad school?
Yeah, I think for me, knowing what I wanted to do was helpful, but as I'm sure most of you feel, just kind of that desire to keep wanting more, to keep wanting to better yourself. And I know this is so repetitive, and we've all been saying it, but it really is so important, the networking, sending a text to people, reaching out to people, no matter what area of grad school it is. I thought with the medical area that networking wasn't that important because you either apply and you're good enough or you're not. I was so wrong. So important. I had a girl from, I think I had a freshman year lab with her, text me the other day about applying to PA schools. So you really never know what's gonna come full circle for you. And also just making sure, I know Sarita and I talked about this earlier, to give yourself credit. So many things that we do seem like just everyday things. You're going through the flow of being a student athlete, and I know we keep saying it, but it really is something so special, and highlight those things. If you're a freshman or sophomore, start taking notes now. Write down a list of things you do, whether it's an event you go to or a guest speaker you go to with the team or a volunteer event with an organization. All of those things they seem minuscule to us because we do them so often, but they really stand out in the real world. So give yourself credit, realize how amazing it is to be in the position that you guys are in, and use it to your advantage for sure.
Yeah, and to wrap us up, a speed round. What is one piece of advice that you can offer students who are preparing to start applying for jobs?
Speed round. Well, we talked about networking, and we're going to get into it more in our breakout sessions, but understanding how to network and that you're all part of your own network. The alumni are part of your network. You had a dad who was part of your network and was really important to get in your career. Finding those people and making those connections along the way and having those conversations is really what will turn the corner. Because what you're trying to do is, when you apply for a job at ESPN, there are 800 people who apply for every job. It's an insane number of people. But what you want is to be able to email someone, call someone, and say, hey, I'm applying for this job. And they go, oh, I know you're awesome. I'm going to send an email. I'm going to send a note, because you want them to take that resume out of that pile of 800 and put it on top for someone. So you break through the AI algorithm that LinkedIn has, it's working against you, and everything else. You break through, and it's on the top, so someone can go, oh, yeah, that's really interesting, and get you at least in the door to have that. I've sent I think I applied for 15 jobs at ESPN, and a friend of mine who was working there said, oh, have you ever thought of working at ESPN? I said, yeah, I'd love there. And he got my resume pulled to the top of the pile for someone, and that was my breakthrough. So that's what networking does, is you're trying to get someone to just get your resume out of the pile, and then you come in and you close it.
Short and sweet, confidence. Companies won't see you as a rock star if you don't see yourself as a rock star. So know it, own it, and show it.
That's great.
What both of them said, I think leading into your network is so key. That was something that I recently experienced. It's just the applicant pool and how extensive it is. It's really tapping into your network and having them to try to help you shoot to the top of the pile.
I agree with all of those. To add on to that, I would say be open-minded and be able to explore different opportunities. Just as much as a recruiter or an interviewer may want you for their job, you want to make sure that you find the right fit for yourself.
Absolutely. I agree with everything as well. And thank you all for joining me in conversation. And now it's time to open it up to you all. There are microphones floating around. Please feel free to ask any questions that you have at this time.
All right, first question that gets asked, I'm going to mail you an ESPN t-shirt and hat. So we're going to get this going. Encourage bribery works. There we go. We got one here. I'll get your information afterwards and your size. I got you.
Hi, my name is Joel Offerton. I'm on the track and field team here at Maryland. And thank you guys all for being here. My question is, in the workspace, how do you navigate through like conflict and issues with coworkers in a like professional manner, but without like abandoning like your morals and like how you feel about situations?
Ooh, that's a good one. I had to learn not to take things personally. That was a big problem I had when I first started working, especially in television. I took things really personally, and I tell people all the time when they come to me with that question, we have a conflict, I was like, most people don't go home and they're not thinking about you when they go home. They're not as worried and as worked up about it as you think it is. Don't take it personally, move on, go back in there, communicate. Remember, email doesn't translate perfectly for people. If you have a question about how someone took something or, you know, your work, good, bad, whatever, just go ask them. But not taking things personally really helped, you know, sort of save my mental health, because there were times where I thought, I must be terrible at what I'm doing, and people have other things going on in their lives. So once I stopped taking it all home with me and just left it at the door, things got a lot better. It's a good question. There, I think.
Hi, is this on? Oh, okay. Hi, my name's Amari DeBerry. I play on women's basketball. And I was just wondering, in your last couple of months wrapping up college and your college careers, what do you think was the biggest thing that you did that helped you, like help set you up for your next step? Like, what was the one thing you could think of was like, that is what really helped me feel confident in what I was doing next? Mm-hmm. That's it.
That's a good question.
I think, I guess because I'm a recent grad, so just was in your shoes not too long ago, really taking in the people around you. Like, again, I know we keep talking about networking, but really embrace all the people that you have in your corner and at your disposal, because it'll definitely help in the long run. So if it's making new friends or taking an extra second to talk to, like you said, a fan at the game or anything like that, I think that's your time to do it. Because when you're on the outside looking retrospectively, you miss those opportunities and that network that you had. I mean, we pretty much have a free networking space at any game day, any sporting event, and stuff like that. So take advantage of it for sure.
I think too, making small goals for yourself. Like I remember when I was finishing up my gymnastics season and I was applying to graduate schools, and it's time consuming. On top of your schoolwork, on top of competing and practicing, it really is time consuming to be able to research schools or jobs and apply to them, and study for any exams that you may have in order to get into grad school. And so I think just making small goals for yourself that are attainable, maybe spend an hour 2-3 nights a week working towards, you know, that goal, I think could be really beneficial.
Hi, my name is Kennedy, and I'm on women's soccer. You guys touched on like once you leave athletics and you're not in the athlete bubble, when you're working with like regular people, I guess, how do you like lead or motivate people who don't have the same like mindset or same like passion, I guess, or I guess they show their passion in a different way? How do you connect and like lead people in that sense?
I think what I've learned, I was fortunate enough to play with two really great leaders in Tamika Catchings and Elena Beard, and some things that I learned from them is everybody doesn't like to be led the same way. So what I've learned and experienced is it's like building those one-on-one connections so that when conflict does arise, or if you do have a question, then you already have that basic foundation to talk to that person. And people like to be led and motivated in different ways. So I think if you have that one-on-one connection, it doesn't have to be, you don't have to be besties, but if there's a basic dialogue and understanding there makes it much easier to motivate somebody or lead them because you know what makes them tick.
Hi, I'm Sailor. I'm on the women's basketball team. Why are you laughing? If you guys could do one thing differently, like through your 4 years or through your career, like what would the one thing be that you would change?
One thing differently while you're in school, or one thing differently afterwards? Oh, yeah, I would say, that's a great question. I always encourage people to take go places, move, don't be afraid to take the job somewhere else, because you can always come back. Go to Iowa, New Hampshire, Vermont if it's a cool opportunity for you. You might love it in a new place. So that's taking that risk to go move. We talk a lot about stretch assignments, which is, if you don't know it, that's a job within the job that someone will give you, hey, we're just going to give you a shot at something maybe the next level up. Take those kinds of things. Something I would not do, though, I'm actually going to answer your question. I think I would be more open, with, my own personality, initially at jobs. I think that's a great evolution, the way workplaces are now. I think I would have probably been a bit more myself and not spent some early time in my career trying to be like other people who were leading. Once I figured out how to be me in the workplace, I was a lot happier and I was better at what I did.
I think I would say live in the moment. I know for me personally, I was very focused on my next step, what was coming next, planning for grad school, all that kind of stuff. But once you leave, there's not really any going back. So live in the moment. It's okay to not think about the future for a little bit. Just enjoy your time here now while you have it.
Yeah, I agree with living in the moment. I don't know if Coach B's in here. I haven't seen her. But I loved my 4 years. I lived it up here. But when you graduate, it's so different. There are moments I wish back. I was like, I wish I would have done this, or maybe experienced college life a little more, as far as doing some of the student events, going to some of the, is it still called STAMP? They change the names all the time. But doing some of the stuff at STAMP Student Union, I was so focused on basketball for obvious reasons, but there is time to kind of experience life outside the athlete bubble. So that's one thing I do wish I did more of, is experience college life outside our bubble a little more.
Well, I know we have so many more burning questions out there, but it is time for our breakout session. So everyone will be around after or in your breakout session. Please feel free to ask then or connect with them after. And I want to thank my amazing panelists for joining me in conversation tonight. And thank you all as well for coming to